All right, continuing on with example one, again, as a way to do some more defining of our statistical terms. We're now going to look at what the sample is. So again, for a definition of sample, the sample comes from the population. So these would be the individuals selected from the population. Okay, so in this particular example, our sample would be the adults surveyed on a particular day. Okay, so one way to kind of help draw a little picture here of what we're looking at. No idea what that yellow mark is over there. All right, so the population is like everybody in the box. Now, I say everybody, also note it doesn't have to be people in every instance. You could be looking at a crop, okay, like cornfields, for example. It doesn't have to be people, but a lot of times it is. But you've got this population, so those are all of the people, perhaps in the United States or whatever. And then the sample is that smaller group from within the population that you are actually going to pick from. And when I say a sample and I put that circle there, it's not like they all come from that one area. In reality, they're scattered all around, but again, I think you can get the idea there, okay? So the next idea is, what is a variable? Okay, what is a variable? So this is what is being asked or measured for each, sorry, my screen's going wonky here, for each individual. Okay, what is being asked or measured for each individual? So what information are you trying to find out about every item or person that you are sampling? Okay, what are you trying to measure? So within that, there are types of variables. Okay, qualitative variables are ones that are categories. Okay, qualitative are more like categories. All right, it would be things like yes or no questions, your height, or not, sorry, not your height. Yes or no questions, your eye color, your hair color, things where you cannot be measured. Okay. All right, quantitative variables are more numerical. Okay. And these are going to be, again, numerical in nature. That doesn't mean like on a scale of 1 to 5, what do you think? That's a little different, okay? And so hopefully we'll hammer that out a little bit when I describe discrete and continuous. Discrete are a type of quantitative variable. These are the ones that are countable, okay? So if you were like, how many chocolate cakes did we sell today at the bakery? Okay, that's something that is countable. How many customers came into the store today? That's something that is countable. A continuous variable is something that is measurable. Okay, something that's measurable, and more particularly on an infinitely smaller scale. Okay, so how tall someone is would be continuous, because with the right tools, you can not only measure to the nearest foot or the nearest inch, but the nearest half inch or the nearest quarter inch or the nearest millimeter, etc. You can get smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay, again, assuming you have the right tools. So it doesn't mean we can do it. Like in actuality, it means there is the potential to do that with the right tools. All right, so we're going to go back and we're going to look at our study again, and we are going to find any variables in our study. Okay, so in our study, what are we trying to figure out? Okay, well, we have two variables actually. Okay, one of them is, are these people willing to participate in a survey? Okay, that's the first one. Are they willing to participate? The second one is, which method do they want? Okay, all right, and then what kind? So when it says classify the variables, that means are they qualitative or are they quantitative? Okay, so if you're willing to participate, again, this is a yes, no type answer. That makes it qualitative. Okay, and then the survey method, again, it's going to be, I'll do a web-based, I'll do a paper-based, I'll do a phone-based survey. So again, that's not something that you're measuring, okay? Web, paper, phone. This is also qualitative in nature. Okay. Right. What would the data look like? Okay. What would the data look like? So definition is these are simply the responses or measurements for each individual. Okay. In my head, I tend to think spreadsheet. It would kind of be like the list, like, you know, person number one, person number two, person number three, and then like everything they answered. Okay. So like if you think of a grade book, that could be the data. Okay, I would have each of your names, and then I'd have a whole bunch of numbers listed after you, representing your homework scores, your quiz scores, your test scores, your participation, etc. Okay, so in this example, what would data look like? Okay, well, you might have like person number one said they would, a web survey, they would not participate. The next one might say, hey, a phone survey, no, not going to participate. The third person might say, a paper survey, yes, I would happen to participate. The fourth person might say, a web survey, yep, that would get me in, etc., etc. Okay? And that's what your data would look like. And those web and phone and paper and no yeses, those are probably two different columns of data. But again, that's really what it'd look like. Or you could scratch it on a sheet of paper, right? Okay. Just a couple more real quick to finish up this example and move on. So what does an individual happen to look like? Okay, an individual is going to be one person or object from the sample. Okay, one person or object from the sample. So in this example that we just did, an individual might be Melissa. I'm going to say participated. I want to say Melissa is person number 4 in the data. Okay, she's an individual, one of the people. If we're looking at a bunch of cornfields, it would be one particular cornfield. Okay, all right, and then what would a statistic look like? So a statistic applies to the sample, okay? A numerical summary from the sample. Okay, this one is going to be a known value, all right? Because you have a smaller group, maybe you asked 100 people, you can summarize those 100 people exactly, okay? It's easy, you have those 100 numbers in front of you. So in this particular example, what would it be? So again, we can pick anything. We're looking at how many people would participate in what kind of survey. So it might be the percentage of people who said, try that again, they'd take a web survey, or a paper survey, or a phone survey if you prefer, okay? And again, that would be known. You would know out of the however many people we asked, this percentage of people said they would take a web survey. That's a known value. That's not unknown. All right. And last but not least here for example number 1. We find out of 50 respondents, 40 completed a web survey, 5 completed a phone survey, and 5 completed a text survey. What conclusion might we draw from the data? So what is just anything you could come up with there? Okay. You might be able to say, it looks like most people would be willing to take a web survey. That's a conclusion. Okay. You could also say not very many people are willing to take a phone or a text survey, like paper survey. Sorry, I changed the word there in my notes for some reason. Okay, just anything that you can come up with. Okay, 4 times as many people would complete a web survey compared to a phone or paper survey. Again, write down whatever version of that you want. So most people will take a web survey is what I'm going for. And if we sampled another set of 50 people, would we get those exact same results again? Okay. Hopefully, right off the top of your head, you say no. Now, might we? Yes. We might get those exact same results again. However, a different set of 50 people is not required to behave the same way as another group of 50. Okay, the results can be expected to be different. Okay, and this is what is known as sampling variability. Okay, the results can be expected to be different. That is sampling variability. In other words, every time you take a new sample, you can expect, it's not required, it's not mandatory, they may turn out to be the same, but the expectation in general is going to be that, yeah, I'm probably not going to get the exact same thing I already got.